Welcome back to Better Life, Better Business with local business coach and time management expert Christoph Nauer of Balance 6. I'm your host, Rebecca Troxel, founder and CEO of Rebecca's Vault. Today, I have a slightly different spin while sticking with our series of interviewing business owners that can absolutely help you with managing your time in your business. I am going to be doing the interviewing today as we get to know the time management expert himself, Christoph. Hello, sir. Welcome to being a guest on your own show.
Well, it's definitely a new experience. I've been a guest on other people's podcast or podcast before, but never on my own. So, hey, I'm ready.
Does it feel odd at all to be the one getting asked the questions this time?
Just a little bit because it's on my own podcast. But other than that, no, not at all. I mean, I love doing this stuff.
Well, you know that I really wanted to have a chance to interview you so that our viewers could get to know you just a little bit better. However, I will be asking you for some of your favorite tips and tricks as well here. We do need to talk business too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, there are several. But if you allowed me only one, I would say clarity. And as a faithful listener, you may remember a special episode on this topic. We need to be crystal clear on where we want to go, and only then can we really create an action plan, make the famous to-do list, prioritize, make a schedule, block time, etc., etc. Just to throw out some of the many tips I share with my clients. And as you know, self-care and work-life balance are, in my opinion, on the top part of my priority list.
Absolutely. And those are all things I want to dive into you with. However, I really want to start off with the obvious, your accent. It's a very unique accent. And I was wondering if you could tell our viewers a little bit more about where your accent comes from and where you grew up.
Yes, many, many, many moons ago, um, I came over here from Switzerland. I grew up in the outskirts of Zurich. And well, we don't have the time for the long story about how I ended up here. But let's just say I came here, went to school to get my master's degree, and I met my wife, and the rest is
Mm.
history, so to speak.
Absolutely. But I do have to say that Switzerland seems like the most appropriate country for you to be from, especially given your profession.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, in prepping for our interview today, I researched things that Switzerland was known for, both in their culture and their values as a society. And a reoccurring value I saw across a variety of resources said that Swiss culture values privacy and discretion, very important for your coach to have.
Well, that is true. But most people think of chocolate and cheese when they hear Switzerland. Well, what else did you find?
Well, a few other things that I found were honesty and hard work. I also found that the Swiss are known to value punctuality, a sense of responsibility, but by far, my most favorite thing that I found was that the Swiss have a very long tradition of freedom. Freedom, that's what you help your clients achieve, right? Freedom, very fitting.
Yes. Well, before I get into the freedom component, let me just say something about punctuality. Okay, my dad was a train engineer, so he drove trains across Switzerland. Now, if the train was scheduled to leave at 5:01, it did pull out of the train station at 5:01:00 seconds. So if you got there a little bit late, you would just see the light, the tail light disappearing out of the station. So just to show in that little punctuality part. Now, it doesn't always happen, but most of the time when the Swiss get really uptight if a train is not on time. Um, but let's talk about the freedom that you talked about. Obviously, it's not the kind of freedom that Switzerland stands for. What I do is I free my clients from overwhelm, from working too much, and not taking any time off. I free them from focusing on the wrong things, from distractions, from never finishing their famous to-do list, from putting themselves last instead of first, from freedom from having the business drive them instead of the other way around, freedom to truly believe in themselves and become and be the best version of themselves.
I have absolutely experienced that firsthand, and I'm very glad you decided to become a coach. But I was wondering if you could tell all of our viewers what was the moment or the reason that made you decide to become a coach?
Well, my dear Rebecca and listeners, how much time do you have?
Uh,
Well, I'll give you a condensed version, okay?
Perfect.
Um, as you know, I've been in pastoral ministry for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And back in 2010, I met a guy in a men's group. And so we talked and talked. And one of the things I found out after a while is that he was a coach. When I heard that, I was like, what is that? Because at that time, my understanding of a coach was usually, a sports team having a coach,
Right.
soccer, et cetera, et cetera. Soccer because I'm Swiss. Um, so we talked for a long, long time, and eventually I asked him, "This sounds really interesting. You know how I can get trained?" So he said, "Well, funny you should ask. I'm just in the process of transitioning from coaching people to training new coaches." So I kind of became his first student, so to speak. Now, that doesn't mean that afterwards I knew everything and how that worked, of course. The real learning process started after, when I had to, when I partnered with and learned from the experts in the industry, like Brian Tracy, and those who are faithful listeners have, heard me quote him all the time.
Absolutely.
uh, John Assaraf and Christian Michelson and so forth. So those are the three gurus in the industry that I followed, afterwards. But that's kind of like in a really quick nutshell how I ended up doing what I'm doing now.
Well, I know from my conversations I've had with people a lot of the time that you get this perception that when you're a business coach or really a coach of any kind, you figured it all out. Your life is perfect. You don't have any issues, and you definitely don't have the same struggles as the rest of us, but you know how to get us through it. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, of course, I'm the best. I'm perfect.
I knew it.
Oh, yeah, right. Just kidding. No, I learned so much from my clients. Okay. That is just so wonderful. I walk away so energized and fulfilled, and the clients, so many times they point something out that I can go up and read up on, or read a book or whatever. And then
Right.
of course, I've been married for 30 years, and so my wife is my coach. She holds me accountable and say, "Hey, when are we going to go for a walk? When are we going to go to the beach again?" The things that she knows that recharge my batteries, and the things that she knows I need.
Yeah.
So, and quite often, sometimes I really catch myself not following my own advice, and then of course it blows up in my own face, and I wonder, why did that happen? Well, of course, because I didn't do what I tell my clients to do. No, 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 not at all. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I was perfect at everything. It's not the case. And that's why one of the six in my business name is self improvement. There's always something more for me to learn. And it never ends. So if you're looking for a coach who's perfect and has it all figured out and has no faults, I'm the wrong guy to work with. If you want to work with somebody who is working along with you, who is always open to learning new things and wants to grow himself, then please come and work with me.
That's excellent. And see, that's the Swiss in you. You're valuing honesty, and I appreciate that.
True,
On that
yes, you're right. And I think a key component, excuse me for interrupting,
no.
uh, honesty, but also integrity. That's one of
Mhm.
the things my mentor, Brian Tracy, in his entire course that I took, emphasized over and over again. Integrity is really key. And I can never jeopardize that.
Absolutely. And, on that note, you mentioned how you grow along with your clients and you're constantly open to learning. What would you say in all the different business owners and entrepreneurs and salespeople and other trainers and coaches you work with? What is a pretty common universal struggle you see business owners have, and how can you, as a coach, help them with that?
Well, there's several of them, but I think one of them is really what I said about earlier, clarity or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Um, they almost every business owner always says, "Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so busy." And there's the good busy and the bad busy, but we have to be productive because by the end of the day, we want to feel good about the accomplishments of the day. We don't want to feel guilty and worn out and know that only half of what I should have gotten done got done. Once we have clarity and know what we need to work on, what we need to focus on, then things change. Then also the prioritizing process that I teach, one that I learned from Brian Tracy, comes into play here. Work on the critical tasks first, and as I said earlier, a critical task for me, in my opinion, is self-care. And the only time we get that correctly is on the airplane. Put your mask on yourself first before you go and help somebody else.
Yep.
But other than that, that's frowned upon. And that's wrong because we cannot be the best version of ourselves if we don't take care of ourselves first. And everybody that we encounter deserves the best version of ourselves, whether that's our spouse, our kids, if we have kids, business associates, colleagues, clients, the whole gamut. So to
Absolutely.
me, it's really about working on the right things, delegating and outsourcing the things that could be done by somebody else, and only have to do those things that nobody else can do. Basically, our expertise. For you, Rebecca, you're an expert when it comes to gift giving. That's what you should be focusing on. You know,
Right.
for me, coaching my clients, that's my expertise. Marketing, social media, doing my books, taxes, you name it. That's not. I don't have a
Mm-mm.
clue how that works. And I shouldn't be wasting my time doing that. There are
Right.
experts out there in the industry. They're very, very good at that. And like you said earlier, or you following your own advice. I didn't for the longest time until last year when I said, okay, whole tax thing, books, accounting, all that stuff. All right, done. I ain't doing it anymore because I don't know to do it how. The other thing too, the website. I don't know how to put stuff on the website. So I hired somebody to maintain my website. Now
Mm.
it's easy. I just send them an email, boom, and it's done.
Yep.
So, so that's, you know, and of course, as you know, I could go on and on about what to work on. But key is really the clarity, the lack of the clarity, working on the right things, focus on and prioritizing. That's the key component that I work with my clients on so that they don't waste time because that's the most precious commodity that we all have.
I used to think it was so silly when you would tell me to schedule self care time and ask me what recharged my batteries. And it was taking a bath and taking a soak once a week by myself. And actually having to schedule that on my calendar seemed odd. But now that I've been doing that for a few months now, I'm actually much better at my job because I'm more relaxed and I'm taking care of myself. So you definitely help business owners with that and definitely help with clarity. I can speak firsthand to that. And so, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm going to toot my own horn for just a minute here, but it's for a very important reason, I promise. So I started working with you in March of 2014 when I was in insurance sales. I had been with this company for a long time and had just finally been promoted to a management position, the one that I had always dreamed of. And I had the world's smallest team to work with in my area. And 4 months later, I was headed on an airplane to an all expense paid trip to Scotland for 4 days because I hit 656% of my sales quota. I'm going to repeat that for people who are in sales. 656% of my sales quota for the quarter. And it was the second quarter, which isn't always the most productive quarter. And I attribute a lot of that to the work I did with you and that I did with my team and you as well. I incorporated them with the training. Now, 7 years later, I own my own business that surprisingly not only survived COVID, but I'm actually thriving. And you have to love it when your clients have success with the work you do with them, like I've had success with you. But besides me, of course, what is your favorite success story with a client?
It's hard to pick out a favorite one because I honestly got to tell you, I love all of them. But the couple that come to mind because of the one that talked about the delegating is the dentist who came to me because his wife was upset with him for bringing work home. And you may go, well, how the heck can a dentist bring work home?
Right.
Well, he brought the work home that should have been done by somebody else. So
Ah.
he was micromanaging.
Hmm.
So we started working together because it was not good to go home to an upset wife.
Nope.
So it took a while for him to let go and let his employees take over and do the work that they got hired. And so for him to focus on only the things that he studied and that only he could do, which is fixing teeth. But after a few months, he was able to accomplish that. So he was able to get home in time for dinner
Nice.
without work. His briefcase was not full of paperwork that had to get done. So he got to spend quality time with his wife and young son. Not only that, this allowed him to add 15 new patients to his dental practice.
Wow.
Um, so that's where you see the win-win, happy home life and
Yeah.
increased profits and productivity at his job. That's
Balance.
just one of the stories. And if you want to go to my website or the Google business, there's a whole bunch of others there. But we don't have time to go into all these stories. But this is one that I just decided to pick out on.
It's a good one. I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit. Something that you always like to ask the guests on your show that I really want to ask you is what are some of the best resources that have helped you along the way?
Well, there's several that I've already mentioned. Obviously, Brian Tracy, John Assaraf, Christian Michelson, those are gurus in the industry. There's also a fantastic book by Alec McKenzie called The Time Trap, where he lists the 20 worst time wasters and how to overcome them. There's a book on leadership called The Multipliers, a fantastic book on leadership and how a multiplier approach to leadership increases the productivity of a company up to 130, 140%, while if the leadership style was a diminisher, it would drop down to about 70%. So
Oh,
those are some of the resources, but there's so much more out there. But these come to mind right now as you ask.
excellent. Well, I'm definitely a reader too, so I can appreciate getting all that knowledge that you have there. I definitely have a long list of books that you've recommended for me that I need to get caught up on as well. The name of your business, Balance Six, was obviously chosen very intentionally to represent the six different areas you help your clients find balance in. And we've heard some of your guests talk about different areas like money and relationships. But I'm interested on what aspect of your six you would like to give our listeners some advice on.
Well, in case listeners don't know what the others are, there's time, health, self improvement, and spirituality. Um, so part of it is we have a body that we need to take care of. So it's probably not a bad idea to have to watch what we put in it. We also know that exercise is something that we should be doing,
Hmm.
and we all know that we need sleep.
Yep.
And not 2 or 3 hours, but from what I've studied and learned, it's 7 to 8 hours every day. And I know when I get that sleep, then I'm ready to go in the morning and
Hmm.
I'm not groggy. And when people are groggy, that means they are, not at their best and they're also cranky. So when you're cranky, then people don't want to be around you.
Nope.
So and so forth. So that's the health category. The improvement category we already talked about,
Yep.
before. Spirituality, of course, coming from pastoral ministry 20 years, I start my day meditating with Deepak Deepak Chopra. I can't ever pronounce his name correctly. And that just starts my day off, and fantastic. And when I don't do it, it's different. I'm not the same. I miss it. And who everybody else has to find something that works for them. It could be just sitting in nature. This beautiful California weather. We're so spoiled here. We could just sit out in the sun and just relax and do nothing. Um, that's hard for most of us to do just nothing. Just sit and listen and do nothing. If you've never done that, try it once, and you'll see it's hard. We actually have to
It
practice
is.
doing nothing. Because it's like, oh, what, doing nothing? So
Yep.
um, So those are a couple of things that came to mind as you were asking this question, Rebecca.
Well, I'm going to toss a little tidbit in there. One of my favorite things about you is that on a religious level, we're not exactly on an even playing field. We have different opinions, but something you have very much helped me do is find a way to have inner peace. And I also meditate every morning, partially because of the guidance you've provided. And that does fulfill me in a spiritual kind of way. And I'm a little bit more balanced throughout the day. And that was really hard for me to implement. It falls a little into self care too, but it's really great to have someone like you who values the different aspects of people and the different forms of spirituality in your life, and just really making sure that you're helping each of your clients on a very individual level. I have to point out how amazing that is.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's really key. Each person is different. When
Yeah.
we talk about self-care, I always ask my clients, what is it that recharges your batteries? What's currently missing from your life? And if you had just that on a regular basis, what would that do for you? And then once they know what that is, and sometimes they don't even know what that is, then it's a matter of blocking time for it on the schedule and actually scheduling it. Just like you said, Rebecca. I remember you said when you blow off your Zen time, you say that you're not the same, that
Nope.
everybody suffers around you when you don't have it.
It's
So,
true. The whole household does suffer when I don't get my Zen time. Well, Christoph, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to grill you just a little bit for a change today and give our viewers an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
my pleasure. Thank you for putting this together, Rebecca. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you, viewers, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed getting a little peek behind the curtain. If you or someone you know is looking for guidance on finding balance in business and in life, make sure you take advantage of the offer Christoph provides his audience, a complimentary business breakthrough session. During this session, you'll learn how he can help you double your productivity, profits, and time off. All you have to do is go to balance6.biz to sign up for a time that works for you. Until next time, make sure you focus on finding balance and having a better life and a better business.
This week's episode of Better Life, Better Business is brought to you by CA&C Video Productions. Since 1985, CA&C Video has been providing live streaming, event production, and analog to digital transfer services. They capture those life-changing moments, preserving your history for current and future generations. Because your history matters. Visit their website at cacvideo.com. Thank you so much for your sponsorship.
That's all for now. Thanks for listening to another episode of Better Life, Better Business with business and time management coach Christoph Nauer with Balance 6, the leading business and time management company in Northern California. Visit them at balance6.biz.